Hey guys, 2D System here, and today I am coming at you with a Final Fantasy games tier list. This is a tier list of all of the games, all the mainline games, 1 through 16 plus 7 remake. And today I'm not going to be ordering them by how good of a game they are, or any other metric, except I'm going to be ranking them based on how much I personally want to play the game. Now, most of these games I haven't played. Some of them I played a little bit, but didn't get super far. And then a couple of them, I would say one of them I've played through all the way. But we're going to get started. We have this tier list. Each game is going to go into its own tier. And you see at the top here, I have the game that I want to play the most, and the game that I like to play the least is going to be at the bottom. And we're going to go ahead and get right into it. What is the game that I would like to play the least out of all of these games? Well, that's going to be Final Fantasy XI. To be perfectly honest, am not sure if I can play this game in any legitimate or official capacity. But even if I could, I just have no interest in playing a MMO that's older, that I have no real connection with. I don't know anything really about 11. I don't know how it plays. I don't honestly have faith that the community is like super big and boisterous. And to be perfectly honest, if I wanted to play a Final Fantasy in an MMORPG style fashion, I would play a different game called Final Fantasy XIV. But we will talk about Final Fantasy XIV a little bit later on. But for now, out of all of these games, the games that I just have absolutely no interest in ever really touching is Final Fantasy XI. Again, I'm not even sure if I can play it legitimately. I'm sure I could figure it out pretty quickly, but I'm not worried about it. Moving on from there, we're going to go to the game, the game that is not an MMO that I would like to play the least out of all of the, traditional Final Fantasy games that are single player experiences. The one I would also say that I have very little interest in is Final Fantasy II. I haven't heard too much about the game, but what I've heard is that the story is, it's alright, it's pretty good, I guess. I'm, not super sure what it's about, but from the few synopses that I've heard, it wasn't really anything to write home about, but didn't seem super terrible. What did seem really terrible was the gameplay. There is some kind of weird leveling system where you level each of your stats independently of each other, if I am understanding the game correctly, and that just doesn't sound appetizing to me. I would have to say Final Fantasy II would be the one that, if it weren't for Final Fantasy XI, I would say I would be least excited about. And then moving on from there, we're going to stay in the similar era, is Final Fantasy I. Now, Final Fantasy I is the first one that I actually have played a little bit. Way back, I had an emulator on my smartphone that I used to play Final Fantasy I. No idea if it was the original version or if it was an adaptation, because I seem to remember it having somewhat improved graphics. And I may not have even been an emulator. It may have just been like an official port for the smartphone for Android devices. I'm not really sure. I didn't get very far into the game because, again, I guess not again, but because the games in these earlier generations, they don't necessarily speak to me in the same way that later games, I think, could. And obviously, most people generally agree that, Final Fantasy as a series didn't really start getting really good until 4. And from what I understand about 1, it just seems very, plain, basic, it sort of was the canvas that the series would be painted upon, but it itself is simply just that, a canvas. So I'm going to go ahead and put it down here at spot number 15, because while I appreciate its impact on the gaming sphere as a whole, the game itself, I could go my life learning about it but never actually having played it, and I would be perfectly fine with that. Now, the next game on this list you guys may see as a little bit of a curveball, but the next game that I'm going to put on this list is actually for a similar reason for 2 being so low, and that's going to be Final Fantasy VIII. Now, I have played like the first 30 minutes or so of this game before, and yeah, the weird little system where you like take the elements or the affinities of your enemies and use them later, it was really weird and complicated, and I really didn't understand it. I got to this part where you're fighting Ifrit, and I think I beat him, but I was just like, I don't understand how this game works, and so I put it down, never picked it back up. The story seemed pretty decent, you're like in a school and you have to fight things, I guess. I don't know. I actually don't know too much about the story, but it seemed like it was going to go pretty cool places. But yeah, just the gameplay of it really struck me as odd. And yeah, I think I would put it at number 14 on this list. I don't think I ever really feel any desire to go back to this game. And you know what? It is what it is. Next on this list is going to go on the next spot for a similar reason to why 1 is on so low on this list, and it's going to be Final Fantasy III. Now, like Final Fantasy VIII, I have played a little bit of this. I'd say I'd played like the first little intro sequence. You get out of the cave, you go to the town, and then you can kind of explore the world map, and put the game down. I will say, the kind that I did play was the 3D remake for the DS, and if I were to ever go back to it, I'd imagine that's the one that I would play, but I would have to do a little bit of research what people are saying the best one of the group is. But yeah, from what I understand, a lot of people kind of have the same analysis of 3 that they do of 1, and that it's a little bit generic. It doesn't really add a lot of spice to the games. And that's why it is as low as it is on this list. Now, the next one that I'm going to put onto this list is going to be the other MMO game on this list, and is going to be Final Fantasy XIV. This is one that I did play for a little bit. I got the little free trial pass. I think the free trial was for about a month, if I remember correctly, and I only played for like a couple weeks. I played to the point that I was able to become a bard. And what's fun about Final Fantasy XIV is that whenever you are a bard, you can play musical instruments. And by that, I mean you just take out the instrument and use your computer keyboard as a sort of MIDI keyboard, and you can kind of play whatever you want to play, as long as you don't get caught by copyright holders. You're mostly fine. I did not get caught by copyright holders, but I did play on it a little bit, had my fun with it, said, that's really cool, and then I never logged onto the game again. It seems like it's a pretty fun game with a pretty interesting combat system. Of course, MMO, so you can kind of go around, do whatever you want. You can talk to people, big community, yada yada yada. For me personally, I am not a fan of subscription-based models for games. I've never played WoW in my life, and I don't plan on it, because I don't want to pay a certain amount every month to play a game that I may lose interest in for a couple months and then want to come back. That's it. The payment plan for a game like Final Fantasy XIV is just not for me. However, if I did ever want to play it again, I would probably just make a new account and try out the free trial again, and then probably put it down and never pick it back up. It was an interesting game, and if I had like a group of friends that were really into Final Fantasy XIV, I would consider picking it up again, and that's kind of why it's a little bit higher on the list than some of these other games. Let's see, the next game on this list, I think I'll go ahead and say the next game on this list is actually going to be Final Fantasy XVI. And that's because I know basically nothing about it. In fact, the extent of my knowledge of Final Fantasy XVI are the Magic the Gathering cards that came out in the recent set that are from Final Fantasy XVI. So if I were to ever play it, I would probably see the thing that the card that I recognize represents and go, hey, that's from the Magic the Gathering card. I know there's like dominance and something, I guess. I don't know. It's going pretty much where it is going because I know so little about this game. I've heard it's good. People on the internet say it's a good game. I guess. I don't know. They're probably right. And then next on the list is actually going to be Final Fantasy IV. Now, this is a game that I have played all the way through, more than once. That's why 4 goes as low as it does on this list, but it goes as high as it goes because honestly, I love the game and I wouldn't mind replaying it once. Maybe not right now because I did kind of play through the game about a few months ago, earlier this year. And I'm not really trying to play the same game again so soon after I played it once. Just come to think of it, I never actually completed that playthrough. Oh well. It's a great game. I absolutely love it. It's the one game that I actually have played all the way through. It's, you know, very, very expertly crafted. Oh, I should point out that it was the 3D remake version. That is the one that I played when I was a little kid, and that was the one that I have played recently. I know that there's a pixel remaster that exists, but I like the augment system. Honest to God, I love being able to like switch out and customize the moves that my characters can do. Like, I can make Cecil use a monk's kick move, and I can have Kane using Cry, which is like a white mage Paolo move, but I like that, and I don't like how the original and the Pixel remasters don't have that. At least from everything that I've gathered. I've never played them, but I have played the 3D remake, and it's a great game. It's just, I have played it before, and if I were to put all of these on a list, which I am doing, there are other games that I haven't played that I would rather play more than just for again. And so now, what are some of these other games that I would rather play? I think next on the list, we're going to actually say 5. Final Fantasy V. I know it's about this guy and his chicken, and they travel across the world. And I think that's a pretty nice thing. I think honestly, the one thing that draws me about the game is that seems like a little cozy little dynamic. It's like guy and his pet chocobo just riding across the world on a quest, you know. I think that would be a nice little feel-good game. I've never played it. I've not like ever even seen the title sequence. Maybe it's not a feel-good game. I have no idea. But one day, maybe, I will get around to actually playing this game, Final Fantasy V. Next up, we're going to say Final Fantasy 12. I have played a couple hours of this. I used to have it on my PlayStation 2. Back when I had a PlayStation 2. I may actually have the copy of this game somewhere, but I wouldn't know where. It seemed like a really interesting game. The combat seemed like more in line with what I would expect from Final Fantasy. It seemed newer, you know, it's got these big overarching, like, kind of political seeming storylines. At least that's what I got from the first couple hours of gameplay. Yeah, I would probably return to this at some point. Maybe it could stand to go a little bit lower on this list, but I mean, would I rather play 12, which, you know, I played a little bit before, but would I rather play it again and go through the whole experience and have that experience, or would I just go back to 4 again? I think I would say I'd rather play 12. So I think I'm okay with it being right here on the tier list. Next, what we're going to have is Final Fantasy VII. Fittingly, it's here at number 7. That actually wasn't even planned. I'm kind of sort of doing this off the top of my head. The original 7, I played up to the Gold Saucer, if I believe, a little while ago on the Nintendo Switch. They have Final Fantasy VII that released the original for the PS1, and yeah, it was pretty decent. I think I would, if I were to go through it again, it would be mostly to enjoy the story. I think at some point I kind of wasn't too much of a fan of the way that you could kind of just put whatever materia on whatever character, and you could make any character sort of be whatever you wanted them to be. And in my mind, I was like, well, I mean, Cloud, he's, the guy with the sword, Tifa's the monk, Yuffie's the ninja. Like, I kind of thought maybe they should have been able to, like, not cross-class as much as they were able to, or maybe I misunderstood the materia system, but either way, it was a pretty decent little experience, and yeah, I think it's good. But obviously, if I were to actually play a Final Fantasy VII game, you can tell by the fact that it's not on the list yet that I would rather go for the remake. And I think what I would say goes above 7 here in this spot is not going to be the remake, but Final Fantasy 13. My friend had played this in high school. I'd never played the game. I know the game is very linear. It's more just like an interactive movie type of experience, but the combat has something to do with your, like, changing the formation of your party or something, if I remember correctly. There's the guy with the little chocobo, Saz. He seems like a really cool character. The characters in that game kind of, for a game that I've never played, a lot of the characters are pretty memorable. Lightning, snow, yeah. It's I think it was the first game on the 360 PS3 era. And yeah, I would probably, if I ever had the chance to play Final Fantasy 13, I think I would probably take that chance at some point. But I'm not sure that I would really go out of my way to play 13, until I have played all of these other games. We're going to go down here, and I'm going to say here is where we're going to talk about the Final Fantasy VII Remake. And yeah, see, now we're getting into the top 5 territory. These are the games that I actually do kind of want to experience. What I'm not a fan of is that it is going to be split into 3 games, one of which I believe hasn't released yet at the time of this video. I could be wrong, but I believe that is the case. And there's a price tag there's going to be a price tag associated with all 3 of those games. I'm not excited about the fact that I have to, buy 3 different $60 games, or $70, or however much it costs. I don't know, maybe it's $40. I don't like the idea of having to pay, buy a trilogy in order to play an entire remake. But I've seen the videos on YouTube. The game looks pretty good. So that's why I'm putting it right here at number 5. Going up from there, I'm going to say, I think it's going to be between 10 and 9. We're going to go ahead and put these guys right here. 10, everyone loves 10. Every anyone who's ever played 10 will tell you it's the best game ever made, and I've never played 10, so I have no idea if it's the best game ever made, but many people say it is. at some point probably going to have to get my hands on it. But as of right now, I'm currently playing through another game, which I have yet to talk about. 9 is only a lower than 10 because of the jump between PS1 and PS2. I think Final Fantasy X would be a little more palatable on the eyes, on the ears. It's the first game with voice acting, but I do like the idea of 9 being like the traditional, the back to its roots, but souped up to the modern, in quotes, modern age. It's not really modern by today's standards, but for its time, it took like the classic tropes of 1, 2, 3, 4, kind of stepped away from the, more industrial look and modern looking settings, like with 6, 7, 8, and kind of tells this more, high fantasy tale rather than this newer urban fantasy that you find in what there was going for. And I think that would be really cool. I would say if you want to play like a Final Fantasy game that's high fantasy, like you want the ultimate like high fantasy game in Final Fantasy, I would say, or at least it seems to me, that 9 is sort of that game. From what I remember, 12 was also a little high fantasy as well, but people just talk about 9 a lot with a lot more regard than they talk about 12. That's why I'm more excited. I would be more excited to play 9. However, we're going to be moving on. The next game is the game that I'm playing right now, and that is Final Fantasy VI. I am playing it through definitely legitimate means, because it's been a while since I picked it up. I've been, busy with work and all that, but I think I'm getting almost to the halfway point. I know there's like a certain point in the game where Kefka destroys the world, and I guess that's kind of a spoiler for me because I haven't even gotten to that point yet, but from what I understand, I think I'm getting pretty close to that point. The opera scene, which I have gotten to, is pretty incredible. I will say, the more I play the game, the more I think it deserves a remake. Like, Final Fantasy VII is cool and all, but Final Fantasy VI, that game definitely deserves a remake. And I don't mean just a pixel remaster. Like, I want to see the opera scene in full 3D CGI wonder and splendor. Like, I think that game just deserves that treatment. And maybe you could say the same for 9 and 10, but I can't. I haven't played those games. I have no real knowledge of whether I think they should make a remake for those games, but I will say, from what I've played of 6 so far, I will say it's a really good game. Even for a Game Boy Advanced game, that's the kind that I'm playing. I know it was originally on the Super Nintendo, and then there's a pixel remaster, but I went ahead with the GBA version for some reason. I don't quite remember what the reason was, but I looked it up on a couple of different discussion threads about which one is the best experience, and I kind of read everyone's thoughts on each of them, and the pixel remaster, I think, doesn't come with all the content that the one on the GBA did. which is a similar problem to Final Fantasy IV. But yeah, 6 so far is a very good game, and I highly recommend it to people. Kefka is amazing as a villain, just incredible. And then finally is the game that I would be playing instead of 6 if I had money to spend $60 on a brand new game. But Final Fantasy 15, this game has vibes. You know, when I first saw it, didn't really know what it was about. I was like, oh, new Final Fantasy, whatever. And then a few months ago, looking at like all the different games, and yeah, apparently this game is about a guy who is next in line to take the throne for a kingdom, but he doesn't want to be the prince of the kingdom. So instead, he just goes on a road trip with his 3 best buddies. And gee, that just sounds really fun. You just get to go on the road tripping with like your 3 best friends. You're just having a good time, bonding, fighting monsters, doing side quests for people. All of the characters seem like really, you know, fleshed out, and they've each got like their problems and their it just seems like a really good story to play through. It seems heartwarming. I'm sure, you know, I know Final Fantasy V is an older game, so I don't know what sort of heartbreaking scenes may or may not be in that game, but Final Fantasy 15 is a newer game, which means it definitely does have like the heartbreaking scenes that I'm sure are in there, because why would they not be? This is a game, you know, made within the past 10 years. You have to have like some kind of heart-wrenching scenes or multiple scenes. But regardless of that, just the idea of just like 4 bros just going on a journey together, like just being really good friends with each other, like that just seems like a nice tale to tell. And that is a nice tale that I would like to be told, you know, if I weren't broke. But that is my official tier list. These are all of the games that I want to play in order of how much I want to play them. I hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment below, and I will see you guys next time.